Okay, let's move on to point at issue questions. This is the next LR question type I want to cover after most strongly supported. And point at issue questions come in two flavors. One is the disagree flavor. The other is the agree flavor. Now, right off the bat, I want to tell you this is the far more common subtype of point at issue questions you're going to get. In fact, so common that sometimes I still catch myself doing this. Sometimes I'll read a point at issue agree question stem, and because I'm just so used to doing this, because this is one that happens a lot more frequently than this one, I'll just misread it as disagree. Okay? So I say this as a caution to you to make sure that you distinguish between the two, right? I bet the same thing's going to happen to you. You're just going to get so used to doing the disagreement subtype that you forget that the agreement subtype even exists. And then once upon a blue moon, they throw an agree subtype at you, and you're just going to, oh, it's a disagree question. Well, then you're going to run into trouble in the answer choices. Okay, so just a word of warning. Now, let's talk more about, first, I want to relate, of course, this question type to the question type we just covered, most strongly supported, right? Because, you know, a running theme of this mini course in logical reasoning is I want you to see the unity of logical reasoning, how all these question stems are related to each, to one another. So the way I like to think about this, and first let's talk about just the agreement subtype, okay? The agreement subtype. I like to think about this as you're just doing MSS, which is what we just did, but you're just doing it twice. Okay, so think of point at issue agree as just two MSS questions at the same time. Now, how are you doing two MSS questions at the same time? Well, it has to do with how the point at issue questions, how their stimuli are presented. Whereas in MSS questions, you just get one author. Sometimes the author is named, right? Sometimes, you know, it's an advertiser or a scientist or whatever. Sometimes it's not named, right? You just get a blob of text. In point at issue questions, you're always going to get two speakers, right? You're always going to get two speakers. So this is going to be speaker one, this is going to be speaker two, and together that makes up the stimulus, right? So the sense in which you're doing it twice, it's like, let's say A is the right answer choice, and I should say like cats are great, right? In the simplified example, cats are great. And speaker one maybe says something like, oh, you know, I love cats. Cats are, they're emotionally very sharp. They always know when I am sad and they'll come over and like comfort me. And yeah, I love cats, right? So, okay, so those are the claims that speaker one makes. You can see how this is like, right? This would be the right answer choice for an MSS question because, well, the support is very strong, right? The support, just in the same sense that MSS, the support is very, very strong. Now, if this were an agreement question, you just have to do it again, right? This person says, oh yeah, cats, man, I love playing with this. So much fun. They're so energetic and they love playing fetch, right? That's like the best thing to do with a cat is to play fetch, right? Okay, so person two says all these words and it's like, yeah, you can probably infer with great support that this person would think that cats are great, right? So there it is again, the supported. So that's the sense in which you're doing MSS once, you're doing MSS again. That's the agree subtype. Okay, so now let's talk about the more prevalent disagree subtype. What's happening here? Well, with the disagree subtype, what you're doing is you're doing MSS once for one of the speakers. And then what you're doing is you're doing something like an anti-MSS. Okay, you're doing something like an anti-MSS for the other speaker. Okay, what do I mean by that? So, first speaker, nothing changes. Cats emotionally very sharp, comes to comfort me when I'm sad, blah, 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 all the same, right? Cats are great. Now for the other one, there are two ways you can think about it, and I'll offer both to you, and it's up to you to decide which way you prefer to think about it, but they are logically equivalent. Okay, so one way to think about it is you can think about it at this level, right? Another way you can think about it is you can think about it at this level, right? So let me explain that. At this level, you're thinking about something like an anti-support, okay? So this person would be like, are you kidding me? Cats, like two cats, you're nothing but a meat sack that dispenses food. That's all you are to them. I mean, they'll sell you out at the first chance they get, right? So you see, like if the second person says this, you see in what sense, I mean, it's anti-support for the idea that cats are great. Clearly, this person doesn't think cats are great, right? It's not just that this person has said something that's like, oh, neutral with respect to whether a cat, well, I don't have an opinion on. No, active. Like the person said the cat's ready to backstab you. So that's the sense in which it's anti-support. Now, that's one way to think about it. Another, like I said, another way you can think about it is, so we're going to forget this person, right? Just from this person's perspective. You're going to deny this claim. You're going to say it's not the case that. You're going to add this phrase. to this, right? So now answer choice A modified reads, it's not the case that cats are great. And now you're just doing a straight MSS support, right? MSS support. And you see how that, right? What did the person say? Something about like cats, you're just a source of food. Cats will betray you, sell you out, backstab you. Well, yeah, that supports the idea that it's not the case that cats are great. Do you see? So, but hopefully you see the first method and second method, they amount to the same thing, right? So that's what I mean when I say for the disagreement type, you're kind of, in a sense, doing MSS twice, just like with the agreement type, right? Like clearly you're doing MSS once for one of the people. It's just for the other person, you're doing an anti-MSS. Okay, so anti-support. Okay, so that's one theoretical point I wanted to make about pointed issue, this question type, before we look at the real questions. The second point I want to make is this, I'm going to bring back that spectrum again. The one we saw when we did MSS questions, and it's the spectrum where I told you for MSS questions, the answers fall in the spectrum of explicitly stated, strongly implied, and what's over here on this consistent, right? Once you go over here, and this spectrum, but you can make it more, fine-grained if you want, add in more words that fit in between. Like, for example, like weakly implied is probably somewhere over here, right? Consistent over to what I call anti-supported, right? Over here to straight up contradicted. Anyway, so as we saw in most strongly supported questions, the vast majority of answers fall somewhere around here, right? Like centered on strongly implied, sometimes the answer is a little bit this way, sometimes the answer is a little bit this way, right? Okay, fine. That's for most strongly supported. Here's the thing for point at issue questions. The target parameters on this spectrum gets pushed out this way, meaning you get to target this whole range. Sometimes the correct answer will actually just be something that maybe like this person just straight up said in all the, the ramblings, just straight up said, oh, cats are great. Well, then hardly it's fair to call it strongly implied. It's just the dude just said it, like verbatim. He just said cats are great. So what do you mean strongly implied? He said it. Do you see what I mean? Like you don't normally see that for most strongly supported questions. For most strongly supported questions, it's like, the right answer choice is somewhere over here. But for pointed issue questions, the right answer choice could fall anywhere along this part of the spectrum. Now, let's put the 2 points that I made about pointed issue questions together, right? This first point about the distinction between agree, disagree. The second point, where the answer falls on the spectrum. Now, you put the 2 and 2 together. If you're doing an agree question, well, what I'm saying is that you're just doing it twice, right? Which means the right answer from both speakers' perspective will fall somewhere over here. Now, if it's a disagree question, okay, for one of the speakers, the right answer will fall on this part of the spectrum. What about the other speaker? It's going to fall on this end of the spectrum, right? For this other speaker, you can see over here, we still have that remaining from earlier, right? It's either anti-supported or the other guy just straight up says, you're crazy, cats are not great, right? Then it will be over here, it'll be straight up contradicted. Here, I think in the original example I just gave statements about like, cats view you merely as a source of food and blah, 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 kind of to hint at the idea that cats are not great. Right, as opposed to just explicitly stating cats are not great. So that's this end of the spectrum, which mirrors this end of the spectrum. Okay, so that's the theoretical framework. Let's put this framework into action. Let's take a look at some pointed issue questions.